Ooh, so this is very interesting, and it may be something that is totally unfamiliar, as compared to prior folding chair sessions. But I'm hopeful that you all can just kind of get where we're coming from with this, because it gets pretty deep. Just because I think Michael and I both are feeling rather, we are venturing into a sense of introspection. And I have felt that I needed to go deeper for the past year. And I don't know if anyone has felt like that at all, but over the past year, the past 18 months, we have been subjected to many things. I have had so many emotions. And it has forced me, it has punted me into a place of introspection, of self-reflection, and a sense of purpose, and to understand my life and to reflect on that. And so I think about the philosopher Soren Kierkegaard. And he made a statement, a quote, if I could, in 1843. And I know you've heard this. Mike was very familiar when I mentioned it to him. And Kierkegaard said, life can only be understood backward, but it must be lived forward. Life can only be understood backward, but it must be lived forwards. And so what I'd like to share, and what I would like for you to do, is to, write this down somewhere, because I want you to reflect on this. Remember, this session is going to be about reflection. And then Reverend Carter is going to come in and he's going to work his magic and do his thing. But I want you to ask yourself, as I ask myself, am I living my life forward? And then what really does that mean? Life can only be understood backwards. We're thinking about the historical components of our life, what brought us to where we are today. So Socrates, who was the teacher of Plato, if you do any of that work, if you kind of happened upon any of those philosophers of long ago. Now, my doctorate is in ethics, so I dealt a little bit in, philosophy and all that kind of stuff. But Socrates says this, as we reflect on Kierkegaard, Socrates says, an unexamined life is deprived of meaning and purpose. An unexamined life. Question number 2 for you that I want you to write down, because here again, this is about reflection. We're going deep. We're going pretty deep. Have I examined my life recently? Have I examined my life? Have you asked that question of yourself, as I asked that of myself, and that is, who am I? What do I stand for? I know that by profession, I'm a nurse, a registered nurse. I know that I'm a mother. I know that I'm a friend. I'm an aunt. I'm a sister. I'm many things. But who am I? Ask yourself that right now in your space, in your virtual space, your muted virtual space. Ask yourself that question right now. Who am I? So I'm not sure if you've heard of this person or not. His name is Howard Thurman. And he wrote this wonderful book. Can everybody see that? Strange Freedom. A Strange Freedom. Howard Thurman was a spiritual advisor to the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. And he says in this book, there's a quote, there's many, but he says in this book, he said, It is a strange freedom to be adrift in the world of without a sense of anchor anywhere. It is a strange freedom to be adrift in the world without a sense of anchor anywhere. So then another question that I've got to ask you, and I want you to write this down as well. Do I have an anchor? So we talked about introspection. We talked about living life forward. Am I living my life forward? And then we talked about examining our life. Have I examined my life recently? It's all very interesting. So here are some additional questions that I have here. And we're going to get a moment because I want you to, anybody who would like to share, your thoughts, if you desire to, on any of these questions that I'm posing, because it's almost going to sound like Socratic questioning, because Socratic questioning says, so why is this? And you answer that, why? And you answer that, why? Everything leads to a why until you get the answer that you seek. My question is, what has my life, personalize this with me, what has my life been like so far? Take a moment and ask yourself, what has my life been like so far? Do I understand me? So, for those of you who are parents, and, we tell our children things, we talk to our spouse or our partner about certain things, and they may respond with, I understand. I understand what you're saying. Do you understand? The ethicist in me says, understand. How do you define understand? How can I interpret that you understood me? Is this subjective? The term, the definition, understand? But let's just take it for how you define it and personalize it. Do I understand me? I know I'm speaking words, but do I really understand me based on my standards? Wait. So what standards do I have? Have I even thought about my standards? What is that thing that is, I'm drawing the line in the sand, and no matter what happens, I will not cross this and you will not cross it because this is my standard. So I heard in the breakout session, and I wrote it down because we're going to go here, Sarah, and you spoke of falling in love with your passions again. Remember that as we talk tonight about what are our passions, what is it that we are attached to, what is it that we desire to pull us through on this journey. It's our passions. Have you ever asked yourself, what am I passionate about? Sometimes we don't, because we're so busy in this chaos. We're overstimulated on many levels, and we really just don't have time to focus on that. And then I ask you to ask of yourself, did I ever think that I would be where I am right now in my life? If I reflect, and I know your minds are thinking about it now, you're just kind of going, that CD, DVD in your brain is just kind of rewinding and saying, okay, so when I looked at my life 20 years ago, did I think that I would be where I am right now? So maybe you thought you would be in a different place, a different space, that you would be more successful, however you define successful. Maybe things didn't happen exactly the way you had planned it. Or maybe you are farther along than you thought you would be, and you are so grateful, and yet you're striving for more and to expand and to pass that vision on to other people, like Aisha's doing, like Dr. Fox is doing it, and so many of you. You know, it's like, did I even imagine that this could even happen to me? But like I said, some of us feel that I should have been further than what I am today. So let me give you an example. So my mother is 91 years of age. My mother is a person who has always encouraged my brother and me, for as long as I can remember, to be the best we can be. And you've probably heard your parents, your folks say the same thing, like, I want you to do better than what I did in life. You probably had that same thing. Well, my mother is now on hospice care. I have received so many nuggets from my mother on her bed of transition. It has been the most beautiful relationship that I can remember ever having with my mother. Okay. So my daughter, my oldest daughter, she's 33. She graduated from Emory, cultural anthropology major, hated it, absolutely hated it. And then 5 years after, she decided she wants to pursue furniture design. Something about that wood was calling her, okay? She started doing sketches, she started doing all these things, and she was gonna go for it and take that risk and go for it. So she decided to apply as a non-traditional student. She decided to apply to Savannah College of Art and Design. To make a long story short, she was accepted in Savannah College of Art and Design. She just felt like, this is my niche, this is my place. And then she pursued that journey, and she graduated in November from SCAD. And so she's putting her applications out there. She's been interviewed. She hasn't gotten that call. And one day last week, she was on the phone as I was sitting by my mother's side, her bedside. And Kelly, my daughter, calls, and my mother is saying, Kelly, now she can see this. Now she's on her bed on her journey, right? My mother. And she can see Kelly through the video, through the Zoom camera. And Kelly's eyes look a little red, and she looks a little despondent. And my mom said, Kelly, what's going on? What's the matter? And Kelly just starts crying. And she said, I don't know what else I can do. I don't know. She said, I thought I would be in a different place by now. I thought I would be living and working in the career path that I want to be by now. And my mother said through that video, she said, Kelly, stay in there. Keep doing what you're doing. Because baby, that's life. And when my mother departed, those words imparted those words into her, it just gave me so much life. She may not be where she wants to be right now, but my mother is speaking from experience. Life can only be understood backwards, but we must live forward. She's passing that and infusing that, imparting those words of wisdom. Baby, I've lived here, and now we're here so that I can impart into you. Don't hold your head down. You keep moving. Live your dream. Do everything you need to do to live your dream. And I'll tell you, sometimes we feel like we understand, we got this down pat. We know we have control over our path. You know, I don't know how best to say this, but actually we don't. We can live in our vision and in our dreams, But we got to realize that life goes on, whether we feel like we are where we need to be, or where we are, if we are not where we desire to be, as my daughter demonstrated. But guess what? Life goes on. Life is dynamic, it's ever changing. And we must remember not to hold on to and stagnate because of the disappointments, but we take that, you've heard it before, we take the lemons and we make lemonade from it. And that's what my mother was imparting to my daughter. And sometimes we also, and I'm speaking to myself as well, and that is sometimes the choices that we have made in the past for that certain situation, it turned out really good. And so here's another situation, and we want to apply that same choice we made for something that worked there, but it's not working on this one. Why is that? Because life forces us to make new choices. And those new choices leads us to new discovery, something new and different, a different level. And those discoveries can change how I view me. Do I understand me? What has my life been like so far? Purpose. How many of you have asked yourself, what is my purpose? I have. As a matter of fact, last summer, I did a personal study on purpose. I read so much about purpose, and I started writing down things. How do you really know that you're walking in your purpose, or that you're on the path to your purpose? And if you're not, and you feel that tug and you want to be, how do you get there? How do we make sense of what's going on around us and the fulfilling of our purpose? So I'm just saying that I read the Bible, and so in Psalms, there is a word that I fell in love with so long ago. And that word is, and Michael, I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, but Selah, Selah. There are various definitions for Selah, but the one that I choose to apply is to pause. To pause. Because when Kierkegaard said, life can only be understood backward, but must be lived forward, what he was also saying is, it's fine to take a pause. Sometimes we have to step back because there's so much that's coming at us. So much is coming at us. We may have to stay focused on our purpose of what we feel we need to do, but sometimes we must take a pause, because if we stagnate, it is not productive towards reaching our purpose and our goal. So do not dwell, my friends, my sisters and brothers, on what has occurred in your life, as my daughter experienced, what has occurred in her life that was not, that she felt she should be, in a different place, in a different space, on a different journey. Don't dwell on that, but move forward, as my mother said, because she said, baby, that's life. Keep living towards your purpose. Identify your passion. What choices have I made in my life that has led me to this place, this space? You see, I'm just going to share something with you, and that is, there was my brother and me. There were just the two of us growing up. On the journey I'm in now with my mother as being her caregiver, I never, ever thought, and some of you could relate to this, I never, ever thought that I would be making decisions about my mother without my brother being by my side. He died totally unexpectedly 6 years ago, the love of my life. And I'm like, as I reflect backwards, what brought me to this place? It was that journey of grief that I experienced with my brother's unexpected death. It is disappointments in life. It is the rewards that I've experienced. It is the doors that have opened. All of these things, as I reflect back, prepared me for this moment. What is this moment? Where we are right now, getting an opportunity to speak to you, an opportunity to speak to others, an opportunity to receive from others, because I learn from you just as much as you learn from hearing us speak. I never thought that 40 years ago, when I decided to become a nurse, wow, and the challenges that I experienced in nursing, the different patients that I experienced in my nursing career, the opportunities that I had, and now to have the flexibility in my career at this time, at this moment in my life, to spend as much time as I need to with my mother, as I desire to with my mother, my friend, my mentor, my queen. I have the time, and I look back and I reflect on what has happened, what has occurred in my life. And I said, oh, I was being prepared for this on this journey with my mother as she is preparing the transition. I was prepared for this long ago, all along the way. I heard someone say not too long ago, in order to appreciate life lessons, we must reflect on life lessons. And I want to read something to you because I know I want Reverend Carter to speak, but I just feel really heavy and deep right now. And I'm hoping that you will reflect on the questions that I ask you. How much do you understand you? And what has your life been like? Reflect, take a moment, get your pencil, paper, write it down, reflect on that moment. But this comes from this awesome book, as I mentioned, Strange Freedom by Howard Thurman. And I want to take a moment to read this. And it's entitled, What Shall I Do with My Life? Give me the courage to live, really live, not merely exist. Live dangerously, scorning risk. Live honestly, daring the truth, particularly the truth of myself. Live resiliently, ever changing, ever growing, ever adapting, enduring the pain of change, as though there was the travail of birth. Give me the courage to live. Give me the strength to be free and endure the burden of freedom and the loneliness of those without chains. Let me not be trapped by success, nor by failure, nor pleasure, nor grief, nor malice, nor praise, nor remorse. Give me the courage to go on, facing all that waits on the trail, going eagerly, joyously on, and paying my way as I go, without anger or fear or regret, taking what life gives, spending myself to the full, head high, spirit winged like a god, on, till the shadows draw close. Then even when darkness shuts down and I go out alone as I came, naked and blind as I came, even then, gracious God, hear my prayer. Give me the courage to live. And I ask you, what shall you do with your life?